Raider Nation, what's going on? Before we get into my Derek Carr replacements video, today's show is presented by Panda Sups. If anybody out there is trying to get into better shape, well, luckily for you guys, we got 40% off and free shipping at Panda Sups. All you got to do is use code XMIS at checkout to get the best deal on the internet for workout supplements. So, is it time to move on from Derek Carr? That's what we're going to be doing here on today's show, and I'm going to give you some examples of guys that the Raiders could go out and get in free agency, maybe make a trade or draft. But before we get into all that, remember, Carr was drafted in 2014. His career record with Las Vegas is 53-69, and one of the biggest issues, obviously, is he's never been to or played in a playoff game. Now, one of the stats that I hate the absolute most is, quarterback loss means it's the quarterback's fault why the team loses. No, obviously that's not 100% true, but there is a correlation, I really think, of these mid-season collapse and having a little bit blame here with Derek Carr. Now, if the Raiders decide to move on from D.C., man, we're going to be making videos about it, and whether it's trades, free agency, or the draft, the bottom line is this: the Raiders Report is going to have you covered. I want to get to 100,000 subs. I want to be the very first Raiders content channel to ever do that. So if you support the show, if you bleed silver and black, please go ahead and hit that big red button that says subscribe. Now, Carr, I do want to give him some respect because he's one of my favorite players. He's the first Raiders jersey I ever bought, and he's obviously done a lot of great things for this team, which is kind of why it's hard to say goodbye to him. Games played in terms of a quarterback, second most with 122. He might end up passing that this year, but he's got to make the playoffs. Wins, the most in Raiders franchise history. Losses, 69. That's the most. Passing yards, most. Passing touchdowns, most with 187. And then game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks. He is the first in all of those categories. But if you could tell me how many teams out there have had a quarterback since 2014 who has never been to the playoffs, never won a playoff game, is actually trending in the wrong direction, tell me how many teams end up keeping him. I'll tell you, the answer is 0. Now, has there been a lot of organizational problems? Yes. Has there been a lot of bad drafts, trades, free agency moves? Absolutely. But here is the focus of today's show, and I want every person that comes across this video to answer this question here. Is it time to move on from Derek Carr? I want you to type yes, or I want you to type N for no. And I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's show. So scroll on down while you're getting hit with that YouTube ad break. Let me know, yes or no, is it time to move on from D.C.? Now, one of the things that a lot of people like to talk about is Derek Carr before and Derek Carr after his contract. Here are D.C. stats before the contract. Pretty good in 2015 and 2016, no doubt about it. Sure, the yards weren't up there, but personally, I don't really give a shit about yards. I care about touchdowns. 32 touchdowns. 28 touchdowns. These two seasons were Derek Carr's best years, at least I personally believe so. Then he signs a 5-year, $125 million contract, and ever since that deal happened, he has not been the same quarterback. Sure, the injury definitely hurt him, and you saw a little bit more happy feet, but since the Raiders paid him that money, it also, I think, really hurt the overall team's ability to be able to, go out and pay some other players. And the touchdowns, they've come down here a little bit. Then you look at this season here. He's only got 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Sure, the yards are great. 3,663. He's currently on pace to literally have like the 5th most passing yards in NFL history. But as I said before, I don't give a shit about passing yards. I care about touchdowns, and I care about winning football games. We have to be able to face the facts here. Derek Carr is trending in the wrong direction, and for the Raiders to decide to move on from him in 2022, you have to realize that is a very, very real possibility. Now, before I show you some more stats on Carr trending in the wrong direction, remember, Panda Sups is the sponsor. High-quality supplements and vitamins, they are available to you. Here's Carr's QBR the last 5 years. 21st among all quarterbacks, 50.5. 2018, 46.5. That was 28th best. 2019, 64.1, 71.0, and then this season, 55.0. That's 12th best. We talk about DC potentially being a top 10 quarterback, but as you can see, quarterback QBR, he's only been top 10 one time, literally in the last 5 seasons. So a little bit of frustration there from top to bottom, and I get it, but if the Raiders decide to move on from Carr, do you think that the Raiders will move on from him in 2022? Here's a question. Yes or no? Do you think that the Raiders will move on from DC? And one of the things that we're going to talk about here are some other potential guys that they could go out and get, and luckily I have it ranked for you. And my personal opinion is, yes, there is going to be a brand new head coach, which means you're going to move on from him. And Carr has some trade value. Like, we can't totally ignore that. Just because you don't want Carr to be your quarterback, or Carr isn't going to be your quarterback, that doesn't mean a total rebuild's going to come. He has trade value. Why not trade Derek Carr for a second, third? Maybe you can get a first-round pick, and you use that draft capital and the $19.9 million that you're going to end up saving and invest that into your team. Invest that into your rookie. Maybe invest it into some free agents. All I'm saying is this. People far too often say, it's a team sport. You can't just blame Derek Carr. You're right. You can't just blame Derek Carr. But what happens if you build a extremely solid team around the new quarterback that you decide to bring in? Because if you decide to extend DC, you're not going to have as much money to be able to build that solid team that Derek Carr desperately, desperately needs. So after 8 years, and if the Raiders don't make the playoffs this season, I'm telling you right now, I will be ready and I will be making a push to move on from Derek Carr. So coming up here on today's show, we got quarterbacks to sign or trade for in 2022, and I have them ranked. Now, the only quarterbacks that you're going to see on today's show are guys that I actually think would be an improvement over DC. But before I give you those names, one more time here, today's show is presented by Panda Supps. I absolutely love their workout supplements, and you can get it 40% off and free shipping, but you got to use code XMIS at checkout. So whether you need the BCAs, whether you need the Pandemic, which is like the best freaking pre-workout you've ever had, you take a scoop of the pre-workout, you're going to do a 2-hour workout, not even know what the hell happened. After your workout, take some BCAs. That way you can, fuel your muscles, and you get a free shaker with every order, $99. So not only do you get free shipping, not only do you get a free shaker on orders over $100, but if you use code XMIS, you also save 40%. So Panda Supps is owned by a big-time Raider fan. Shout out to my man, Merbod, and he's just trying to hook up the nation with the best deal available. So awesome holiday gifts. Go ahead, try out those supplements. I guarantee you're going to absolutely love them. So here's why a trade makes some sense, and I'll tell you why drafting makes sense, and I'll tell you again why a trade makes sense. The Raiders' new head coach, he can go out and he can get his guy, right? Let's say he doesn't like any of the options in the draft. You can go out and make a trade, get your dude. There's talented options available. There are 3 quarterbacks next season that would be a clear upgrade over Derek Carr. The Raiders also have missed on draft picks. So let's say you got to give up a first-round pick. Okay, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, until I see the Raiders that can actually do something with their draft picks, I'm okay with giving them up. And the salary cap is going to go up. So even if some of these QBs, they cost some money, now's your time to do it. Go out, make a trade, sign them to a deal, because if you wait, it's just going to cost you more and more and more as it goes on. So coming in here at number 3 in terms of my Carr replacements via trade, it's Deshaun Watson. If the whole legal situation around Watson is squashed and it comes out that he's 100% innocent, he's actually going to be number 1 on my list. Watson, I really truly believe, is a top 5 quarterback with top 5 overall quarterback talent in terms of being able to pass, in terms of being able to run. But he still faces those 22 legal allegations, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't really want somebody that has all those legal allegations against him. So until that gets cleared, I don't want him. But Watson clearly wants out of Houston, and with him wanting out of Houston, you could probably get a player who would be worth, I'm telling you, 3, 4 first-round picks. You could probably get him for much, much less than that as it stands. Now, he's not playing this year. He's sitting out because he doesn't want to play for Houston, even though he absolutely can. And for the Texans, this is what he did last season. 70.2% completion percentage, 4,823 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a 70.5 QBR, and this is behind one of the probably worst offensive lines in all of football. I mean, he was sacked like 60 times last season, but he can also get it done with his legs. 90 carries, 444 yards last season, 3 touchdowns, average 4.9 yards per carry, and over 31 rushing first downs. For people out there that want to see Mariota, let's face it, Mariota is not going to be a realistic option. Deshaun Watson is really, truly the player that I think if you want to see somebody that can run, he's going to be the guy. But until the allegations get squatted, I'm not going to really go into it. Let's go to number 2 here on my list. It's Russell Wilson. Wilson's camp expressed trade entrance during the offseason, and I really, truly believe that you're going to see Seattle go into a total rebuild here. Let's face it. Russ is a better quarterback than DC, even though he's not having the greatest year. But Seattle, they don't have a lot of talent around him. And I do chuckle a little bit that Gabe Jackson wanted to go to Seattle because they have a winning culture and they're not winning games. But Russ would be a better leader than DC, and he has that ability to be able to run. He's 33 years old, and Wilson literally said he wants to play until he's 45. I'm telling y'all right now, you give a first-round pick, maybe 2 first-round picks, Seattle will take it because they haven't had a first-round pick in a really long time. Coming in at number 1 here, it's Aaron Rodgers, and this would be more of a short-term rental. Why? This is going to be Rodgers' last season in Green Bay, and if you really want to go out and get Devontae Adams, if there's a quarterback not named Derek Carr that I think could convince Adams to join him in Vegas, it's Aaron Rodgers. This dude is still playing at an MVP level. Do I think he's kind of a douche and a schmuck? Yeah, I do. But you know what? This guy wins football games, and he could really get this Raiders team to rally. Because if you got guys like Rich Bisaccia who are afraid to lay into anybody, Derek Carr's afraid to raise his voice, Greg Olson's afraid to raise his voice. You know who isn't afraid to speak his mind? It's Rodgers. And I think for a young team in a city like Las Vegas that's got a lot of BS drama going on, I really think Rodgers could help squash some of that and help guys say, hey, you can do what you want, but when it comes down to it, when we're in that field in those 4 quarters, you're going to give me your best or else I'm going to start calling you out. So here are the only 3 quarterbacks that I think that the Raiders should go out and trade for. And honestly, even if one of them gets released, here are your only 3 guys that are better than Derek Carr. But for the sake of the video, here are some honorable mentions that are going to be free agents. Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, Mitchell Trubisky. The reason why these guys are on the show is because I'll bet you $1 million that somebody's going to ask me something about either these 5 or the next 5 players saying, hey, would they be better than DC? My answer would simply be no. And for everyone out there like, well, why not give Mariota a shot? The fact that the Raiders will not start Mariota should tell you everything that you need to know. He is not going to be the Raiders starting quarterback now, and he's not going to be the Raiders starting quarterback in 2022 if they decide to move on from Derek Carr. So out of the 3 guys that I talked about and some of those free agents, if you had to pick, if you found out that the Raiders are saying goodbye to Derek Carr, who would you pick? Aaron Rodgers type AR, Deshaun Watson type DW, Russell Wilson type RW, or if it's somebody else entirely, go ahead and type O. Coming up now is, let's just say the Raiders, they didn't find anybody to trade for. You didn't find anybody to sign in free agency, and you want somebody to go out and get in the 2022 NFL Draft. I got 5 names coming up here, but why does it make sense to draft a quarterback? You got a brand new head coach, or you're about to get a new head coach, he's probably going to want to go ahead and draft this guy. With some of these quarterbacks that might not be all that high, because last time I checked, everyone's saying, oh, the quarterback class is weak. That actually could mean maybe you get somebody to fall in the 2nd round. Last time I checked, Derek Carr, he also went in the 2nd round. But also, I remember a draft in 2017 when everyone was like, hey, quarterback draft, this sucks. Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson were in that class. Cheap quarterbacks helps you build around the team. The Raiders' best teams have been 2015, 2016, before they signed Carr to a big contract. Why? You were able to build a very good team around him. The other reason you didn't trade or sign a guy, you want somebody to learn behind DC, which is actually an option. And Carr, maybe he's sick of the drama and wants a trade or release, because if I'm being honest, for him not wanting to play for anybody else besides the Raiders, I'm going to call BS on that. And if somebody would offer him a contract, I really, truly believe he would go ahead and take it. Now, I have these guys ranked from 5 all the way down to 1. Coming up here at number 5, I'm going to go with Malik Willis, quarterback out of Liberty. And he's a talented dual-threat quarterback, and just because he's playing at Liberty doesn't mean he can't be good. I mean, you've seen a lot of good quarterbacks actually come from smaller schools. He still needs some development, but he's gotten better as a passer, and a lot of times that's one trait that I look for. And when you put on the tape, you can see that he's athletic. You can see that he has the arm strength. He's just playing with guys that, let's face it, Liberty doesn't pump out NFL caliber players. And I would really be curious to see what Willis is able to do with actual NFL talent. But I will say this, if the Raiders decide to draft Malik Willis, you're probably going to have to take him in round 1. Maybe he slides to the 2nd round. he would be somebody that I would want to learn behind Carr. You would let DC play out his contract at $19.9 million. Then you hand the keys to Willis in 2023. At number 4, and I'm actually a little bit lower on this guy, it's Sam Howell. He started off really bad this season, I thought, but has gotten better down the stretch, which is obviously something that you want to see. Now, a lot of scouts, I've seen some scouts say that, hey, he's the best quarterback in this draft. He should be the number 1 guy taken. He can make all the throws, and that I can see. And he can also run. I mean, this year he's got like 9 rushing touchdowns, over 700 rushing yards. I don't like the amount of impact that he's taking on his body, but he gives me Baker Mayfield vibes. Like, this dude's a gamer. He's a tough dude, and he wants to go out there, and he just wants to win football games, which is great. However, I just don't know if his game is really going to be able to just totally translate to the NFL, and I'm a little bit lower on him, and I think he's going to go up and higher in the draft, but he's number 4 on my list. Coming in here at number 3, I got Carson Strong, and he literally has the strongest arm in this class. And here's one thing that I'm going to go ahead and say right now. If the Raiders go out and hire Brian Daboll as a head coach, I'm going to be even more interested in Carson. Why? Look at what Daboll was able to do with Josh Allen. Josh Allen had all the tools in terms of arm strength, but he had no idea where he's going. I'm going to believe in Daboll being able to work with Carson because even though he's not a great athlete, he's a much better athlete than what people are giving him credit for. This season, a 70.2% completion percentage, 4,186 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I like Carson Strong at number 3, but if they go out and they hire Daboll as head coach, this guy's going to go up higher on my list. Coming in here at number 2, it's Kenny Pickett. And, man, I love Kenny Pickett. He was nominated as a Heisman finalist. Not really sure if he's going to be able to win the award, but I'm definitely pulling for him. His football IQ, which I absolutely love, and that's what happens when you have 5 years of playing experience and he's continuing to grow. He reminds me in terms of growth of a lot like somebody like actually Baker Mayfield, and a lot similar to Joe Burrow. When they first came out, you didn't really hear anything about him, and the more playing time and more experience they got, they started to show that, hey, there's a lot more to playing football than being overall super talented. You got to have that quarterback IQ, which Pickett definitely has, in his 58-yard fake slide that he ended up running in for a touchdown shows that. But I am a guy that I don't like small hand quarterbacks. Look at Carr, he fumbles all the time. Pickett does have small hands. Playing at Pitt, we'll see what ends up happening. I do want to see a little bit more, and I want to see what he can end up doing at the Senior Bowl. Coming in here, though, at number 1, the quarterback that I would want the Raiders to draft, it's Matt Corral. I really think that this guy has terrific arm strength and is a mobile quarterback. And his ability to be able to run, people don't talk about him being a mobile quarterback because he's such a good passer. This guy can make every throw on the field, and his poise that he has in the pocket is impressive. I don't want somebody, again, who comes in and he's got those happy feet and he doesn't know what to do. This dude can sling the ball around. He gives you a lot of versatility on offense, and if I was a brand new head coach coming into Las Vegas and I had any quarterback that I could pick from, I would go with Matt Corral. That's why he was number 1 here on my list. Now, those are 5 names, and if the Raiders go out and they draft a quarterback, who do you want it to be? Do you want it to be one of those 5 dudes? Because, I mean, there's definitely other options out there, and I have an honorable mentions list for some other guys, but let me know. If the Raiders draft a quarterback, who do you want it to be? Let me know down in the comments section. I'm going to be looking. Now, here are my 5 guys one more time. If you want to go ahead and take a screenshot, go ahead, post it on IG, post it on Twitter, at Mitchell Renz 365. Here, I'll even post for you. Sick. So, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Carson Strong, Sam Howell, or Malik Willis. If you don't like those 5 dudes, you're like, you know what, Mitch? I don't want the Raiders to take somebody in the first round. I don't even want the Raiders maybe to take somebody in the second round. I want to go a little bit later in the draft. I mean, we've been able to find great quarterbacks, not the Raiders, but NFL teams, Dak Prescott, obviously Tom Brady drafted when he was, but Desmond Ridder, even look at Russell Wilson, Caleb Ellaby, Bailey Zapp, Sam Hartman, and then if you want some Ken Stabler vibes, Brennan Armstrong, the lefty. But the guy that I like the most on this list, if I'm being 100% honest, is actually Desmond Ridder, but he's really not somebody that I would take probably until like the 4th, maybe 5th round. So who do you want to be the Raiders quarterback in 2022? That's what this show here is all about. I like DC. I'm a big DC rooter. I'm always going to be a fan. He's going to be one of the greatest Raiders quarterbacks of all time. But the Raiders have yet to win a playoff game since 24, or haven't won a playoff game since he's been here. So do you either go out and sign somebody, do you trade for somebody, or do you draft? Let me know down in the comments section, who do you want to be the Raiders quarterback in 2022?